Hey, welcome to this video. Today I want to show you how to take your characters that you have drawn, your original characters, and put them in a scene, a illustration with a background where these characters are interacting with the environment and the things around them. And so here I I kind of just redesigned my character Eris, even though I just redesigned him like last week. Uh, this is his old design. I felt like I could improve upon it, and so I did that here. And so yeah, I just simplified his design, and this is what I got so far. Hopefully this is his final design, but I'm not making any promises because I already changed it pretty fast. But yeah, I'm talking about drawing backgrounds for your characters and putting them in a scene. So I want to talk about my thumbnailing stage for this illustration I want to create. These are all the thumbnails that I have drawn, and I started with these ones here, all the smaller ones. I wanted to create a scene where my character Eris is being trained by his teacher Anuki, and so I'm trying to think about that story. I'm keeping that in mind, and I'm also keeping in mind that it's in a desert environment. In these first two thumbnails that I drew here, that's not what I was portraying, and that's because, well, I guess just this first one, I didn't really have a story on what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to convey in the illustration. So this is kind of like a random illustration. Maybe Eris just walks past a adventurer, somebody mysterious on a road, but that didn't really interest me. And so then I moved on to like maybe he's training. So he's got this dummy here, and his teachers are watching him train. And I imagine them just sitting on the rocks right here or something like that. But the reason why I didn't go with this one, this is really cool, but what I really wanted to do was draw Eris and his teacher in some type of desert oasis environment. And so that's where I drew this thumbnail, and I really enjoyed this thumbnail here. This was my third thumbnail, but instead of just going with this one, I wanted to experiment with more, and so I draw these over here on the side. On this side, this one's pretty cool. I like the action pose of Eris here, but the composition is kind of off. It's some cool action, but I don't think you can really tell what's going on in the scene unless I told you. And so that's why I really like this one. You can develop the story by yourself just by viewing it. And then I drew this one. Maybe they're resting in the actual oasis itself, taking a bath, but just decided to stick with the training kind of a theme. And so here's something similar to that third thumbnail I did, where his teacher, his master Inuki, is watching over him as he trains. I do like this one, but I don't like it as much as I do the third one that I did, and that's because of the perspective, where the horizon line is, where that sits. And this one, it makes it a little bit more dramatic. It's at an angle, and we're looking past the teacher, almost like downward toward Eris, and so that's what makes it a little bit more interesting. And with this illustration, it's kind of just flat. It's a leveled kind of a scene, so the horizon line is just, it's down here. This is where the eye level is. We're still looking past the teacher, but it's not as dynamic or exaggerated as I want it to be. It's not as what's the word? Dynamic or something else. And then lastly, I drew this one. Maybe they're training in the royal palace where Eris grew up, and so I drew this here, where again we're looking past his teachers and seeing him train. This composition is pretty cool. Only thing I don't like about it is that I don't really have the palace kind of designed, so it's kind of a little hard for me to come up with ideas for what the palace looks like. So I was thinking of like maybe even making this like a balcony, so just cutting off all of this and then just showing like the cityscape. But I like the outside scenes more, so I'm gonna go with that. And I'm going to actually combine my third thumbnail with my other one. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, turn that off and then turn this one off. And so, yeah, what I want to do is combine these two. I want to combine thumbnail A and thumbnail B here. And combine these two aspects and create a whole new thumbnail up here. And so I might as well just sketch it live. Why not? Show you the process. This is gonna be a very fun illustration. That's why I really enjoy drawing my own characters, because when I draw my own characters, I'm like really invested in the world that they live in, and really invested in drawing them. So put all these thumbnail sketches into a folder and start drawing this finalized thumbnail. I really enjoy thumbnail B2 because of how the sky looks. There's like some clouds or maybe sand flowing through the wind. So I like that about that. But the main reason why I like thumbnail A is because of the horizon line, the perspective. If you want to draw characters, if you want to draw your own characters in scenes and with backgrounds, and with them interacting with other characters, other people, you definitely got to learn how to implement what's called perspective. Yes. So I'm not going to redraw this. What I'm going to do instead is I'll set the horizon line. Actually, I won't even do that. I'm going to copy and paste thumbnail A wherever it's at, right there. I'm going to copy and paste this above that and move it over here and start drawing over it and adding on top of it. But what I can do before that is I can actually plot out my horizon line. So my horizon line is right here. This is our eye level of the scene. So we're looking down at it. I want to get really clear with the horizon line and where it's at. And this is 2-point perspective, so there's a vanishing point here and a vanishing point right around there. And so you can make your own perspective grid just by understanding how the vanishing points work. 2-point perspective works. All the lines will vanish to this vanishing point, and then all the lines on the right will vanish to this point here. This really helps, especially with buildings. If you have buildings in a scene, you're gonna get it tilted just a little bit like that. That's fine. But yeah, I'm gonna continue to draw these lines like this. And what I want to do to make this even better, to make thumbnail A better, is I want to combine elements of thumbnail B. So in thumbnail A, I'm keeping the general composition in place, but I want to add the building from thumbnail B and the clouds as well. So I'm going to do that. Maybe add more trees, but I definitely want the building to be somewhere over here and some clouds in the background. That point maybe to the teacher character, so that way you look at the teacher, then back down to Eris. I think that building will just help with the composition, help frame the story a little bit better. I have the building here, we go down here to the teacher, then to the student, and back up here, and same thing. It looks like that. That's what I'm trying to do with the focal point. So I'm just gonna start drawing this, and I will update you on the progress of this. So let's get to it. right, so this turned out amazing. I'm super happy with how this is going so far. I was able to combine thumbnail A and thumbnail B together to create this new composition, this new thumbnail that I like. And it was very simple. I had to move some of the elements around and erase some things, but I was able to solve the main problems that I wanted to solve, which is just adding this building in from thumbnail B to this left side over here, and then reorganizing the composition a little bit so that way it just fits into the rule of thirds a little bit better. That focal point here and then a focal point right here. And so that's what I was thinking about when I was drawing this thumbnail. And as you could see when I was drawing that, the building and just drawing the environment, I was making sure I was paying attention to my perspective. I had to add some vertical lines into my perspective grid just so I could draw the building easier. But other than that, if you can draw people in perspective, and if you need to just draw a perspective grid like I did in Clip Studio, you can create a new perspective layer. If you go to new layer, where's it at? You go to layer and then ruler frame, create perspective ruler, or you can go to, or if you go to the side here where it says the ruler function, you can do a perspective ruler and add a ruler and add the vanishing points to it. But you can just as easily create your own perspective grid for your thumbnails, and that's been the secret for me in my thumbnail drawings, is creating some type of perspective grid that can help me plan out the environment and all the elements that need to go into it. And so at this stage of the drawing, it's not going to be pretty, but I need to understand the fundamentals of the illustration. I need to understand the story. So what's going on? I need to understand the story. For me, that's number one. Number two, you need to understand perspective, like the fundamental stuff, how to draw shapes in a three-dimensional space. And so forms and the human body and stuff like that in three-dimensional space. And then number three is composition. For this I stuck to the rule of thirds, and those are the three fundamentals that I use to create all of these thumbnails. And my story was a master and student. The master is overwatching the student train. After that, it's the execution phase where I need to draw in a perspective grid so I can understand my composition and how it will lead the viewer's eye. And so after that, I'm thinking about foreground, midground, background. My teacher character and the rocks over here are all in the foreground. And then my main focal point, the Eris, is in the midground right here. I'll call all this the midground. The palm tree, and then all of this in the background is where my background is. And so very basic stuff. You can see all my thumbnails have foreground, midground, and background. In this one, in this one, and in this one. And so those are the fundamental things that I'm thinking about when I'm drawing an illustration like this. And like I said, this is the ugly phase. And so I'll come back in and show you what it looks like all together. All right, so since I got a solid composition and thumbnail sketch, I was just refining all the details of the characters, all their anatomy, all their clothing. And so this is the point I'm at right now. I am I have just finished refining everything, and so this is the later end of my line art stage and the beginning of the end for this illustration. I wanted to combine elements of painting and line art to create this because I didn't want to draw line art for every single thing, especially the stuff in the background. That's not that important to the story. I just did the line art for everything in the foreground and in the middle ground. And so after that, now it's time for the base colors. This is the hardest part of the illustration because at this point, everything is just a flat color, and it's hard to want to continue drawing it when it doesn't look like it's turning out to be anything. But you just got to trust the process because even though it doesn't have any shading at this point, I'm just laying all the flat colors down. It's starting to take form and take shape and start to become what I want it to become. So yeah, at this stage, just want to go into the painting and start painting in the background because like I said, I don't want to draw line art for everything, especially the stuff in the background. And at this point, everything is coming together. I'm really enjoying the process of creating all this, and it feels like it's starting to feel like a finished illustration at this point. I started in the background because that was the hardest part of the illustration for me. Coming up with the background and everything in the background. The characters and shading in the foreground would be easy, but I knew if I didn't get that background right, the whole illustration would feel off. And so I wanted to make sure that the background was solid, even though my painting skills are not the best yet. I'm still learning how to paint, especially landscapes and backgrounds. I did my best to make it feel like a natural environment back there. And so I just move on to the water at this point and trying to figure out how to draw and paint the ripples in the water and the splash of Eris's feet. I did okay. I haven't really rendered water too much, so it was cool. It was a cool process, just trying to figure it out and learn as I go through that process how to illustrate the water. But definitely got to get better at rendering water and just painting in general. So when you're drawing any of your characters in a scene, make sure you keep in mind the story, what the illustration is about, because that will be your focal point for the illustration, the reason why you're even making it in the first place. And then make sure you understand how to draw forms in perspective. That's how I was able to draw my characters. Because I have that understanding of perspective, I was able to easily draw these characters. It took me a while, but it wasn't that hard to draw these characters in a perspective that I liked and enjoyed. And so after that, I just had to keep in mind the composition, all my elements in that composition, and work on completing this illustration. So if you're at the beginning stages of trying to create illustrations with your characters and scenes and backgrounds and environments, don't give up on it. Keep going. It can be hard, especially when you have like buildings and stuff like that, but just take it one step at a time. With your thumbnail sketch, figure out the story, the perspective, and the composition of your thumbnail sketches, so that later on you have a strong foundation to build on top of, so that you can have a solid illustration that you enjoy. When you draw your own characters, especially, it's a fun process to learn through and grow through, to get better and just tell the stories that you want to tell. So hopefully this video helped you out. Let me know if you have any questions about my process or anything I can help you with, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.